Good evening, this is Toshio Okada, and today is January 21st. So today, good evening, okay. Yes, it's already the end of January, and I've been thinking like, a month goes so fast. Today, I'll talk about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is in a style of a famous Japanese TV show, Buratamori. I'll explain the landscapes of the game Zelda. It'll take up most of the lecture today, so I'll chit-chat a little in the beginning and at the end. First of all, let me talk about this week's Pop Team Epic, although I'm not sure if it is really popular or not. Some of you may think, don't talk about that. Talk about the Netflix version of Devilman. But to me, Pop Team Epic is more important. You can watch a Devilman type of series anytime, but Pop Team Epic is like a limited season snack. So, Pop Team Epic first. Well, but still, I found out that more people praise Devilman than I expected. I do understand why some people think it's good, so I'll talk a little about that as well. I also want to talk about how I recommend another Netflix series called Black Mirror. More than Devilman. I mean, its fourth season is insane. Do you guys know about it? Later, I'll do an evaluation seminar lecture about how some cartoonists are protesting against the emerging free comic book websites, that the free service can make them starve, and some cartoonists have even made cartoons for the protest. So, I'll talk about how we should interpret this type of problem. So, how should we start? Well, I'm looking at the comments and many people are writing, no, I don't know, I've never watched Black Mirror. So, why don't I start by talking about Black Mirror? Well, Netflix is broadcasting the series and it's on season 4. The story resembles Twilight Zone, or maybe Ultra Q, if I think of any Japanese drama. Every story completes in just one episode. They're mysterious and have different characters. So the fourth season has started recently on Netflix. Someone just asked, can I start watching from season 4? Yes, you can. Not only that, the reason I recommend season 4 is because the first 3 seasons have both good and bad episodes. And 1 or 2 episodes in each season are terrible, that make you think, oh wow, that was boring. But all episodes in season 4 are good. My recommendation is the first episode. So, it's titled USS Callister. Now, what's the best way to introduce this episode? Well, so, this is a scene from the episode. So, this looks exactly like Star Trek. And what that means is that, so it's a story about the world in the future. And the woman in the front of the picture is the main character. And she enters a VR game company. The reason she enters the company is because she admired her boss called Daily. But he always looks timid. And everyone at the company looks down on him. Meanwhile, there is a CEO who is clever and good-looking. Daily makes all the games, but the handsome CEO appears in the media and acts like he's all that. If you imagine the relationship between Steve Jobs and Wozniak, you'll get the idea. However, to our surprise, that wimpy-looking boss named Daily is actually a very bad guy. He secretly collects the DNA of everyone he hates at the company. After work, he samples saliva from the edge of used coffee cups with swabs, takes them home, and sequences them on a DNA sequencer at his house. I mean, running a DNA sequencer at home isn't really that scientific, but anyway. Then, whoever he samples the DNA from gets taken to the world of the unpublished VR game which Daly has created as the game characters. The world is designed exactly like the spaceship in Star Trek, and Daly, who is always acting timid at the company, is called Captain Daly there. Everyone has to look at him enviously when he comes into the control room and call his name. The control room is filled with his colleagues who always make fun of him at work, but here everyone respects him. For example, when an enemy like Klingon from Star Trek attacks, they panic, but Captain Daly commands strongly, "Shoot photon torpedoes!" That bad CEO is the adjutant, and he's acting as a foil to Daly. The CEO goes, "We're done, let's surrender," but everything works under Captain Daly's strong commands. Then the CEO says, "You were right, Captain Daly, I was wrong," and Daly sits on him like a chair and acts arrogantly. This is the first episode. When I first saw this, as soon as the new season began, I thought they'd gone mad, because the very first scene of this episode is the control room with a digital alert going off. Captain Daly comes in through the automatic door and says, "Show me the monitor." The setting is obviously insane, but that was Daly's virtual reality. Now, the main character woman enters the company, then this woman. It was the other one. After she enters the company as a new recruit, Daly likes her, but she quickly gets sucked into the mainstream group that the CEO leads. So Daly hates her, steals her DNA, and forces her into the game as science officer, who is like Mr. Spock in Star Trek. Once they are taken into that world, because they are just digital clones made from the DNA sampled from saliva, they can't get out of that world. They can't even kill themselves. On top of that, there's a rule that every time Captain Daly succeeds the mission at the end of the story, all female members have to French kiss him. So the main character lady goes, "That's sick, hell no." But that upsets Captain Daly, so he says, "No, you don't get your situation, do you?" and snaps his finger. Then, her face instantly, because this is his world, she instantly loses her eyes, nose, and mouth, and suffocates and collapses. So, while she suffers, Daly says, "Painful? That's what you get for disobeying me." This is actually a complete homage to a 1960s TV show called Twilight Zone, written by Rod Serling. There's an episode in Twilight Zone called "It's a Good Life." It's about a small countryside village in the farthest reaches of America, where there is only one house and people living there live in fear. A person who visits the house wonders why, but later finds out that a boy has a supernatural power and can make anything happen as he wishes. So, people who are gathered there have to pretend to be his parents or brothers and sisters and listen to whatever he orders. Now, in the 1980s, John Landis and Steven Spielberg produced that TV series into a feature film with the same title, Twilight Zone. In this movie, directed by Joe Dante, so it was a remake of It's a Good Life, and there's a scene where the boy uses his supernatural power to take away a mouth from her older sister for saying unpleasant things to him. So this scene in USS Callister with a featureless face is a complete homage to that episode. I saw it and thought, oh, I get it. They're doing Twilight Zone here, which was interesting. Now, back to the story of Black Mirror. Because the inside, the spacecraft, is imitating the world of Star Trek, everyone has a sound mind. Someone just wrote on the comment, "Why only a kiss?" But there's a reason for that. That's because no one in Star Trek, which Daly loves, has sex. So when Daly leaves the room, the crew members all drink alcohol and bitch endlessly. A guy says, "We can't even kill ourselves, look!" and pulls down his underwear, and no one has a penis or nipples. They complain, "We have to live in Daly's sound world. I'd rather die." Then the rest of the story is about how they fight back against Captain Daly. A good plot, isn't it? Each episode features different stories in a similar taste. I think they're pretty interesting. So I recommend you watch Black Mirror, available on Netflix. Now I'm done with my first topic.